Hi everybody. In this video, I'm going to clarify some of the feedback that you've received from your love letter assignment, and we're also going to talk about how you can incorporate that into your This I Believe essay. So I hope that's helpful for you. First of all, if you have not taken a look at the feedback that I left for your love letter assignment, please do that. I spend a lot of time to make sure that I try and give you feedback that's going to be helpful for you, so I hope you take a look and think hard about what I've said, just because it will help you to grow and learn and help us both be on the same page. So your class-wide feedback you can find under the My Grades tab, like you see there. Then you just need to navigate down and look at the assignment draft that you're looking at. So there's some class-wide feedback. Your individual feedback will also be under My Grades, but it will be under class progress. So that's going to tell you your specific progress in the class, so that's where you can find individual feedback. So go to class progress, and then on the left side of your paper, you'll see assignments. You can click on that little details button, and that will give you your individual feedback. So again, if you haven't had a chance to do that, please take the opportunity before you turn in your next assignment, and also as you're working on editing. Here's the love letter rubric that we're going to discuss today, and how you can incorporate the skills that you learned. If you're not looking at the rubrics before you start writing, I would always do that. The links to those are located on your description of the assignment first draft page. So you'll notice that most of your points here, we're talking about focusing on an object, describing it, and talking about and expanding on the qualities. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that and how that will apply to your This I Believe paper. The only category I'm not going to talk about right now is the student addresses the object directly. You all pretty much got full points on that, so great job with that. But let's talk about your object description. If I was reading your love letter assignment and I kind of got to a point where I was like, oh, I kind of have a question about this. They're telling the story, but I wonder what this person looks like, or I wonder where they were at when this happens, or if I had questions like that, I might have taken off a few points. So as you tell your story this week, always try and flesh out the details and the descriptions that are going to be important. In your discussion board on week 4, you talk about why authors make certain choices to include the details that they do. So you think about that. You know, what details can you include to show the emotional state of what's going on in the stories that you tell? And how is that going to play into what your belief is? So you need to be thinking along the same terms as when you were writing about your specific object. Hopefully you used specific colors and specific maybe titles or place names or things like that. You can still give me those really meaningful descriptions in your stories for this essay so that I can connect into what you're saying. Now note that this is not just an essay about a story. All stories that you tell here need to be connected to your belief concept. So here's an example of that. And obviously we're talking now about how you can incorporate these ideas into your This I Believe paper. If I was going to write an essay, a This I Believe essay about I believe in letting my children fail, I can't just talk about failure in the abstract. That gets kind of boring after a little while. So my story is, I'm going to talk about my own youth when I was in music auditions and when I would get so nervous about failing that I would just stay up awake all night, just agonizing about the songs I was going to sing and about the sight reading that I had to do, and how that was just a really almost like traumatic experience about that for me, because I just was afraid of what people would think if I didn't do my best and if I didn't get into these choirs that I wanted to get into. So I'm going to connect that to the broader idea of how I want my children to be more resilient, because I think they need to be resilient in today's society. And so I'm going to put them in activities that they're not very good at. So then I'm going to tell another story in my This I Believe essay about how I put my little dancer toddler into soccer and how she trips and stumbles all over the ball, and I'm going to talk about these specific images of how she quits halfway through the game and picks flowers and cries to me because nobody will give her the ball or whatever. And I'm going to say it's okay for her to be sad, and I'm going to talk about it's okay for her to fail. Maybe if I allow her to see opportunities for her to know that it's okay if she's not good at everything, maybe that will affect the person that she is as she grows up. Okay, so I'm talking about belief statements. I'm also talking about my specific story. Please always make sure that your stories are connected to your abstract belief statements. Okay, so here's your This I Believe rubric. You will notice that your largest point value here is also about kind of specific examples and events, showing rather than telling. So it's kind of the same idea that we had in our love letter assignment. But not only do you need to give me specific examples, but you also, half of these points are also going to talk about what your reflection is about how those stories impact your belief, how they formed your belief, how they demonstrate your belief. So give me really specific events that I can glom onto and tell me why those things matter and how they're connected to your abstract belief statement. So yeah, tie the concrete into the abstract. Show me that you can do that. Connected to the skills that we already discussed, but a little bit deeper this time. Okay, organization. Sometimes in your love letter assignments, there was a paragraph that kind of came out of nowhere that I was confused about the placement, so you might have lost points for that. In the This I Believe essay, just make sure that you're always connecting your stories to the correct analysis of what's going on in that story. So I should never just hear a story and then keep reading and never have you sort of tell me why that's important or what's going on. You should be showing me, and then I should know what you were trying to show me, right? So lead me through your ideas. Just make sure your order of your paragraphs makes sense. In your description of the This I Believe essay, they talk about how you need to state your belief statement towards the beginning of your paper. You'll notice that in the essays that you read from the Empire Hour website, they don't all do that. But that's a good practice to follow, but there's a lot of pros to doing that, just because you never want your audience to be confused about what your belief concept is. Let me know. It would be a sad story if you told me all these stories about your belief and then you said your belief statement at the end, but it was actually something different than what I thought you were writing about. So always just make sure that we're on the same page. Something I noticed in the love letter assignments, sometimes when people would hit the word limit, they would just quit writing. So you don't conclude abruptly. Take a little bit of time at the end to wrap up for me and give me a sense of fulfillment. You can talk about the broader implications of your This I Believe. So why is it important that I want my children to fail? I could not only talk about the fact that I want my children to fail, but why that's important to me. That's a good place to sort of wrap up your ideas. Okay, formatting and grammar. These are the skills I'm going to be looking at. I looked at fragments and run-ons for your love letter, and now I'm adding comma rules. Read your paper out loud. It feels silly, but the more you do this, the more that it will sound to your ear. You can hopefully be able to pick out those fragments. If I let you know that I was taking off points for run-ons, then that might be something you can do. Make a list of the skills that are hard for you and focus specifically on that. So that's a little hint for what you can do with grammar. Also, one really quick thing I wanted to talk about with formatting. I think there's some confusion about what the the formatting guidelines said, don't triple space between paragraphs. This is correct. So this is a double space between paragraphs. So this is what it should look like. Some of you are doing this where you single space between paragraphs, but this is incorrect and this is correct. So just make sure you're always double spacing there. Don't lose points on formatting. Also for your This I Believe, make sure you give me a title, 12-point font, and 1-inch margins. All right, so hopefully this is helpful for you. Again, you should be incorporating the feedback that you've received on your past essays into your editing for this paper. So I hope that you figure out ways to do that. Always let me know if you need help. Thanks and have a great week.